we've been tasked with considering the question, the recession opportunity or threat to unions. My immediate response to that is it's both, and which is the positive or any positive out of this for the union movement depends on what the union movement puts in to it.
In the workplace, what can you do? Well, you can agree reductions in pay and working hours in the expectation that the government's going to offer you some help through a short-time working scheme, or you could do it anyway if you think that's the right thing to do to preserve jobs. There's another point I'd make, that workers today have more legal rights to be informed and consulted about workplace change than at any time in the recent past. Now that might surprise you that I should say that, but it is, in formal terms, true. And this is the right to be informed about redundancies, obviously, and business transfers and restructuring, the right to be involved in health and safety, consultation around pensions, but also under the information and consultation regulations, almost everything that happens in the workplace is now, in theory, in principle, open for information and consultation. Medium-term staff planning, business strategy, any change to what the law describes as work organisation or contractual relations are all now, in theory, in principle, subject to information and consultation. But despite the fact that these rights are there on the statute book, I would say that it's also probably the case that people have fewer opportunities of making use of those rights than they've ever had in the recent past. Certainly in the private sector, where unions and collective bargaining have been in retreat for a very long time now. I would say that under these conditions of crisis, there's an opportunity for unions to think about how they can use those legal rights that now exist to get a foot in the door in workplaces where you aren't currently organised. It would be very easy to be pessimistic and say that unions always do badly in recessions, that by definition you're going to lose members and you're going to be weaker at the end of it than you were at the beginning. That's a risk. You might even say it's likely. But history tells us that there are other possibilities too. In 1929, during the Wall Street crash, American union membership was around about 12 or 13% of the total American workforce. 12 or 13%. After the boom years of the 1920s. During the Depression, American union membership grew under the clear strategic leadership of the mine workers and John L. Lewis and the Confederation of Industrial Organizations. So that by the end of the 1930s, clear union strategy, working hand in hand with supportive public policy, led to, well, not just doubling of American union membership, but they were at over 30%, 34, 35% by the end of that decade, which for employment was a very difficult decade. So if you can use the opportunities that exist, there's no reason why unions can't come through this stronger, better organised, more influential. But to do that, you've got to think about how you appeal to today's workforce, not yesterday's workforce.
David, thanks.
I think it flows from what I've said, that unions are likely to lose members in the recession, which, you know, I'll be absolutely clear, I don't think is a good thing. Unions need more members, because basically speaking, with more members there's a potential to exert more power. But they will lose union members, particularly in manufacturing, particularly in finance, and probably also now in the private services sector. And for any examples that you could give me, oh, you know, I know of a situation where so-and-sos have joined because they need the protection of a union because they're facing redundancy, I would say to you, well, two swallows don't make a summer. You know, we've got to have absolutely loads of those cases to anyway offset the effect of redundancies, because we know in this country that if you're a union member, you're not likely to keep that membership if you become redundant. It's not like living in another country where, in the Netherlands or in the Scandinavian countries, where you know, your unemployment benefit or social insurance is paid through a union. So there's no great reason as to why you would remain in a union. And then the other side of that equation, I think, is that there's going to be a reduction in the level of union recognition across the economy. There will also be a reduction in the coverage of collective bargaining, because the unionised places that are closing down are not going to be replaced immediately or in the short term by new companies or workplaces springing up which are already unionised. Companies don't start off unionised by and large, that has to be struggled for. So in that sense, you know, I'm drawing quite a kind of, maybe in David's words, pessimistic picture. But that doesn't detract from the fact that I think there still is an opportunity to do something good in this situation. The point I really want to leave you with is, it's not that I think that unions are vacuous in terms of their ideas, but what I do think they have a real shortfall on is how they mobilise to support those ideas, how they mobilise to achieve those goals, those objectives that are set down by the policies that they have. Talking, lobbying on their own aren't enough. You can win plaudits for an argument, but that won't necessarily change things. And therefore, I think that unions have to develop a much clearer and better idea about how to be effective in terms of a strategy for mobilising members. One example would be, if you go to most branch meetings today, wherever they're held, within working hours, out of working hours, you're not looking at getting the majority of your members there. There's a fundamental problem going on there that needs to be addressed. And until that is addressed, I don't think that unions are going to be able to fully take advantage of the opportunities that are there. So, I think there's some thinking needs to be done, and thinking that needs to be done quickly. Thanks.
Gregor, thank you very much for that.
The other issue for me, in terms beyond the firefighting and meeting the immediate needs of your membership, is to look and see where the opportunity is. And it seems to me that I think that some opportunities are being missed. Very few unions have got a recession strategy, which in effect is a retention strategy. Now, some unions have. USDA have got an excellent strategy. My own union, the GMB, has created a strategy which basically involves keeping in contact with people who are made redundant. And other unions may have a policy, but I'm not aware of it at the moment. But it is important, because if we are going to benefit from this recession at all, in terms of recruiting workers who are concerned about possible redundancy, possible cuts in wages, and therefore turning to the union for support, then we're wasting all of that if we don't make the effort to keep in some contact with those people who leave the union or leave employment and therefore leave the union. And I think it's extremely important that unions have a strategy for retention. And as I say, most of the time that will be just keeping in contact with them, providing them with the sort of services that would be provided with as a member. The access to debt counselling, for example, that some unions are heavily
And one of the ways that we can engage at company level and at industry level is on the skills agenda. And I think the skills agenda actually for trade unions and for employees is the most important one going forward, because we don't just want to keep skills that are appropriate, we want to retain them, but we want to up them, we want to upskill, we want to reskill, because if we do that, then the workplaces will become more productive, and that will increase, it will make us better able to cope with the competitive situation. The competition's only going to get bigger and more of an issue because of the recession being global. So the skills agenda, I think, is only an opportunity for us to pursue. I can't see any downsides in it at all.